Pavan is a developer turned security professional out of passion, currently serving as Director of Product Security at ServiceNow. So he's a chapter lead of the Null Hyderabad Open Security Community and has spoken at prestigious forums, including DEF CON, Null Community, and knowledge conferences. Today, he'll be presenting our 3 simple strategies to avoid 80% of security bugs. The number is huge. Okay. So let's get into it. Let's hear from him, like how we can avoid the 80% of security bugs. Yeah, all over to you, Pawan.
Thank you. Quick mic check. Can you hear me all right? Is it too loud or is it all right? Okay. Right, I'll keep this away. Sharing my screen. Hey, let's get there. I think she already gave me the introduction. Maybe one thing that new that's not there is, apart from all of my tech and security life, I also do birds and wildlife photography. Recently started, I think, picking up as a secondary passion. More details about me on the website, Pavan Web. You search with that word, Pavan Web, you will find all of my online content with that word. So let's get started without spending too much time on the introduction. So first, I want to call out how this session goes. So this is going to be an interactive session meant for development engineering, be it a developer or I see a lot of students here who would get into one of these roles, not focused for the security engineers. But if you are early in the security engineering, you can learn, catch some lessons here, which you can use it when you interact with one of the development engineering teams, right? So I want to have a quick audience check. I know this question was asked earlier, but I was behind, I did not notice. How many of you are students here who are not a full-time developers at? Okay. So how many of you are full-time development team engineering? Or maybe let's take only developers, coders, full-time coders right now. And QE, testers, functional QE, automated QE. How many of you are functional testers, QE? I see some raise. And any other roles like product owner, business owner, technical program managers? Not much. Okay, how many of you are full-time AppSec security engineers? AppSec, product security, pen testing, manual code review, tools. Okay, how many of you are in DevSecOps? Okay, so if I can gauge the audience, majority is a student part, and we have some developers and relatively lesser security full-time folks. So that's a good the mix, and I think this will help align with what I want to talk today. So in this is going to be very simple and powerful techniques that you can apply at your work or in your future work if you're not working already, right? This is going to be fully interactive. I will show some pseudo code. I will ask you some questions and I'll have some help who will give out the goodies. All right. We are going to build the strategies together. I'm not going to dictate what 3 strategies, but we will build it together. I need help. So please interact with me throughout this session. All right, so I was looking at some of the vulnerabilities, the security issues, especially in the AppSec domain in the last year, 2024. And I came across multiple reports. One of them was from the EdScan in the last year, which was the result of multiple applications across different industry, be it e-commerce or end user or various other domains. And they came up with some interesting facts that list down some of the top security issues in the number of percentage that they identified. And I combined that with other reports like the WASP. People who don't know that it's an open community project for list down all the top 10s. And there are some other tools and vendors like Veracode. Okay, and I'm not showing the vulnerability right now, which will connect later. But if you look at the section, when I looked at the vulnerability, after some time I was able to put them into 3 buckets. So that was highlighted in the red, the bottom one, and blue and green, and identified a common strategy or common format that we can probably apply to avoid those things. Right? So total that was contributing to 84% of the vulnerabilities that the report showed. The number in here and there, because it's not an exact number, depending on the vendor and target, the number varied, but largely it remained the same. And let's see what strategies that we can do to avoid those vulnerabilities, and we will see what vulnerabilities at the end. All right. So now the first scenario. So keep the goodies ready, please. Take a look at the pseudocode on the right side. It's not a real code, it's pseudocode. What security issue that did you see here? Anyone who found it, please raise the questions. I would probably recommend for full-time AppSec engineers to avoid revealing the questions directly. Let's give it for entry and students, entry-level career folks and students. What security issue do you see in this pseudocode? And to give you some context, this is a cab hailing application. For example, like the Ola, Uber that we use for booking the cabs. And the use case is user can see the ride details. That's a use case. If you are a developer and if you're building, the code will look something like this. Right? Do you see any security issue here? There was some online, somebody says access token. What is the issue with access token? It is not authorized of what? Of user. But it is getting the ride ID that is coming from the get ride details. So what do you mean by it is not authorizing the user? Can you let me come there? What is that? If the user which user is getting, but you're checking the access token. So if you validate the access token, you know who that user is. Okay, so he said the access token is not aligned with the user. Correct. Any other thoughts? You can get someone else's access token. No, we are not returning the access token here. Or I mean, the user can get someone else's access token and still access it. That may be fine. Okay, if you want to combine these two thoughts and put it into a business impact, what is the wrong with the business or with this application? What can go wrong in terms of data or sensitivity? What that would be?
I can change the ride ID and get information of other users who are traveling to other places.
Okay, wonderful. Can I have a round of applause for him? What's your name? Sorry? Sobhat. Okay. Can I have some goodies for him? Okay. So the point was, let me show you the next slide and that is much clearer. So the access token is not associated with a ride, which is also right. But the ride ID is not a true random. So you may be able to guess it manually or programmatically. The actual impact is a user can get anyone's ride details if the user passes the ride ID. Okay, it was a real bug that I found in Ola cabs. I reported them a couple of years ago and they fixed it. Okay, so notice this vulnerability. We will connect to the what strategy that we will build on top of it. Okay, are we good so far? Okay, let's go to the next one. This is another pseudo code. Application is a career site. Let's say it's a job portal of some company. And the use case is hiring manager can create and edit the jobs. Okay, that's a use case. Now take a look at the pseudocode and tell me what security issue do you see here? So we're checking for logged in user. We're checking if the user has hiring manager role. And then we are taking the description from the input and we are updating the job. That's how the code works, right? Escalate privilege, can you elaborate that?
I mean, we can simply intercept the request and put on a hiring manager role and.
No, it is checking the get logged in user is getting the current logged in users and then that user's role and checking if the role is one of the hiring manager role.
Okay.
So there is no user miss here.
in get user roles, we can basically like write hiring manager, and then we can just assume I mean access privileges.
Okay, can you work on that thought? Can you explain that in the business impact terms?
So with that, basically anyone can gain unwanted privileges inside a company, and
No, we are not giving the role to the user here. So to explain, the second line gets the current logged in user and checks the user's role and check if the role is, one of the role is hiring manager, and then only give the access. Sorry? What is the security issue here? Do you see here? Authorization. Yeah, what is about authorization? I want it in a business impact wise. Update anyone's? Okay, can we have a round of applause for him? So the answer was one user can update another job. So what it means is, let's say imagine in a company, there are multiple hiring managers. One hiring manager can update someone else's some other hiring manager's job. That should not be the case in ideal, right? Correct. So that's the issue. So we are checking for role. We are checking for your hiring manager, but we are not checking if that job belongs to that hiring manager or not. So that's the business validation that is missing. Can we have some goodies for him? So now let's combine these two or similar area. Let's build the strategies together. Okay. So if you are trying to prevent these issues, what would be your thoughts? What you should look for? Can we have some keywords from you? What is common between these two? Verification, good. About what? User ID and check. But in the second example, we were checking for a user role. You're right, but can you work on the thoughts and fine tune this further? That will make it a common access control, right? But can you be more specific? Authorization, role, but we were checking role, but what else is missing? RBAC, what is RBAC? Role access control, but we were checking for hiring manager role. Policy about the role. Yeah, you're all right, but can you drill down further? Because we checked for role, we checked for the logged in, we checked for the authorization, but what is exactly in authorization that was missing? Horizontal privilege. Okay, that's right. Okay, so let's build some of the keywords that we saw here, right? So the first one was, you all said adequate access check, correct? Yeah. So next thing that you said, user, and somebody said horizontal, that is cross user. In the hiring manager example, we were checking for user, but the problem was with a cross user, correct? And anything else? Sometimes it's business validation. In application, you need to understand business and their business's expected behavior. What user is meant to do what, right? In all of this, what is common? What is that one word that is common? Authentication, that's right. Authentication about what entity? What is that component that you are looking at? Verification, right? But what actor? User, right? In everything is user is common, correct? So this vulnerability is called broken access control, the top one according to the WASP 2021 report. By the way, did you see there is a new series coming in this month? They announced that they are going to release the next top list for 2025. So now let's build the strategies together. So the first strategy is focus on the user. Who is this that your building is for? Correct? It can get any level depending on the complexity, the requirement, and the business that you have. It can be simple as logged in user. It can be role check. It can be cross user check. If you focus on the who part of your application, you're going to avoid the most of the access control related issues. You agree? Is it clear? Okay, let's go to the next one. So the guidelines to avoid these kind of issues. Focus on the user and their expected behavior. one of the common mistakes that we do as developers and testers is we develop something and we test as one user, correct? We test with one set of data, one set of records. But when you test with multiple users, with multiple data, with cross user, then only you will start seeing those kind of test cases or scenarios that you should want to cover. Ask a lot of negative questions. In Indian culture, we say negative questions are not good, don't question, negative thoughts are not good. No, in security and in secure development, negative questions are good. Ask those questions. Usually we focus on in the stories, hey, this functionality is for this user. But when you start asking this question, this functionality is not for which user. Include that in your requirement. Ask this to your product owner or if you're working for a client. Apply this in your peer review and your testing and other UATs as well, the user acceptance testing. Right, so that's the first strategy. Are we good? Let's go to the next one. So now second set of scenario, please get the goodies ready. There is a pseudocode. The application, let's say it's a apartment community application, and a resident can post some post with a rich text. Okay, so input is if they if they can include some basic HTML in the post, and that will render as HTML. Okay, the question is not for AppSec users, AppSec testers. Others, please tell me what is the vulnerability, or in terms of what is the business impact here. HTML, sorry, HTML can contain. Okay. Right. So what do you do in the script? So he's saying he can inject script in the post. So what is that? What can go wrong with the script? CSRF? Huh? XSS, CSRF?
You can use document function.
Document functions, right? Okay. Any other thoughts? XSS, CSRF, those are all vulnerability names. What is the business impact of that? CSRF is possible, but this is a little more than CSRF. It will show some other website. How do you do that with HTML?
It'll inject some scripts.
It'll inject scripts, so JavaScript you can do some other website. Okay, any other thoughts?
Embed.
Yes, Prasad?
We can inject any other websites using embed tags.
Okay, right. I think this was pretty easy. Let's go to the solution. That's right. You're all right. If you look at the vulnerability, the actual problem is there is a static HTML, which is the H3 and the P tag is combined with data. The data is coming from the post body from the user. So you have the user content getting added to the HTML, the static HTML, which is hard-coded in the code and rendered as HTML because of the inner HTML. Right? So the problem with this is the user, instead of bold tag, they can also add anchor tag, hyperlinks. They can also add script tags. And when you add script tag, then you have the full control of JavaScript. So the user can add, instead of the simple body, their community post, they can add a script. And then whoever visits that page, that script runs on their browser, on their session. So whatever the user visits that, whatever they can do, you can control that as an attacker. A quick example is you can pretty much use it for the most sensitive would be privilege escalation to admin. If the admin visits the page and if the admin has access to create another admin. So you can write on their session, completely control via JavaScript. Okay, this is a very common, simple examples about extort cross-site scripting. But I want to have a next similar session. So there is this examples of an e-commerce where a customer can search a product by name and there is some code there. So it's pretty simple. What is the issue here? SQL injection, right? So that means the search query is coming from the URL or the search box in the post, and that is getting concatenated with the SQL statements. So somebody can add any SQL statements like this, the second line there, close the concatenation of the string, adding a double quote, and then drop table or any other SQL commands, because you're running SQL query, execute query that is being run here. So since you're all answering well, I'll get a little bit of trickier question, slightly little difficult than the previous steps. So there's a DevOps or some other kind of similar application here, and the user can import archived data. And there's a pseudocode there. What is the security issue here? AppSec folks? Huh? SSRF? Okay. SSRF, you're not getting a URL here, external URL, so you are not making a server-side request forgery to outbound. HTTP file path, huh? Path traversal, that's good. And so the context, you're accepting the archive path and you're giving the destination. Assume that that's coming from the user controlled data. So the user can control the destination directory and they can give the archive path. Archive path, if this URL is external, that can lead to SSRF, that's right. But in short, you're extracting some file into the path directory that user is giving. That means you can override a destination directory. And one of the ways to get the privilege question is by overriding the authorized key and get into the security issues there. So this is a real bug in GitLab. Jobert reported that for $2,000 bounty. So now let's build a strategies together. What is the common between all of these things? Input validation. So in case of HTML, the first apartment community page scenario, how will you do input validation?
Not allow user to control the
HTML, but the application is meant to have some HTML. So would you check for script tags?
Yeah, you have to.
If you check for script tag, there are a lot of ways to bypass that, right? For XSS kind of issues, input validation is not the best way.
Not only in
Mhm.
validation is one of the ways.
Okay, sure. What else can we do? Blacklist or whitelist? Whitelist. Okay, allow only expected data, right? Even if it is increased.
So ask browser to not entertain the user to execute the scripts. CSP is also one of the.
Sure. Yeah, you can control the the rendering and the browser security there. But is there anything common there? What is that common that across all of these things? So we're talking about the mitigations of that, but what is common in the pattern of those vulnerabilities? So imagine that we are building a strategy here. Accessibility, input validation. Anything else? Injections, right? That's an injection vulnerability. But what is common in all of these injections? These are all kind of injection. Expected input. That's right. So what is that one thing that's common? Let's build that strategy here. So do you all agree this is all comes with some of the things you said, escaping, sanitization, or validate some data, right? We are over relying on the data that is coming from the user, correct? In case of all injections. So this is called the worst top 3 in injection and the also software integration, software and data integrity failures. Examples are all kind of injections like SQL injection, prompt injection, command injection, XSS, even insecure deserialization if you are deserializing the untrusted data. But all of this is something common, that is relying on the data, right? So you are treating user data as commands or instructions in case of SQL injection. In case of prompt, you are combining user data with the system prompts. You are combining the file directory path with the other parts of your make directory and then other system commands, right? So if you focus on what part of your code, you would be able to avoid many of these security issues, right? So the focus is data. Treat data as data. And here are some of the things that you can do while in the development. So all data coming from the client side, be it URL, request body, header, or the stored data like the other table in the database, or coming from the local file system, if the file, if there's a way for user to control the content of the file, are untrusted, should not overly rely on them. Suspect every parameter and know your trusted layers. So when you're building a complex application, there are layers that you can do. There is a backend database, the DOA layer, and there's a business layer. Know which layer is untrusted zone. So if you're building a method that is mostly if it is in the business layer, you should always validate all of your parameter, even though there is no servlet or other ways that is passing those parameters. But when you're building a method, always do not assume any parameter is safe or secure. Suspect for all kind of tampering and validate. Even if it is not directly exposed, tomorrow some other developer may call your method and still pass the untrusted data. Validate before use. That's the second strategy. Let's build third one. So there is a Java web application and there's a build file like pom.xml. So what's wrong with this? So it is a component vulnerable. What is that you have said? It is revealing. Oh, this is a pom.xml. It's like a build file. It's a metadata of your application. If you are including some third-party application and its versions, you have to define that. It is not available to end user directly, but it is in one of the source code of the application. What's vulnerable? What's wrong here? Hard coding the which one? Well, you're using some third-party package, so you have to mention what that package is, and it's a maintenance process. You have to continue to that. Artifact ID. What's wrong with artifact ID?
Can inject other entities as well.
Well, no, this is a pom.xml or similar like package.json and other files. User cannot directly control that. So the one, so somebody said component vulnerable. That's exactly the problem here. The struts version is 2.3.15, which is a publicly known vulnerable application, very outdated and contains critical security issues. So let's go to the next one. Okay, I'm sorry, there's a mistake here, but focus on the right side. There is a method and it is registering the user. What's wrong here? Weak cryptography. Someone, what is that? Correct. So collision attacks. Okay, right. So we are using the SHA-1, SHA-1, which is known for vulnerable in collision attacks. And the method, the encryption, the hashing algorithm is known to too fast, and it can enable to brute force billions of guesses that you can do per second. And there's no salt, and there's no pepper also for the storing the password, which is not a good idea. So the rainbow attacks means you can generate all the possible hashes of the password if you have a long list of passwords, and you can match if you have the hash of the password, which you can basically decode or dehash or reverse engineer the password. Third one, there's Apache configuration. What's wrong with this? What is the security issue here? File path traverser. Yeah, so this is Apache configuration. It's usually found in the virtual host or httpd-conf. So it's information disclosure. You can expose some of the development and test artifacts. So you can increase the attack surface, and basically you can do directory listing of the server files. So let's build it. I know it's 3 different vulnerability, but there's something common here. What's that something common here? Outdated component is true for the first one, but not true for the other two. The other two are completely different vulnerabilities. But there's something common. If you want to find a theme here, what is there something common across all of these 3 vulnerabilities that I showed? more configuration, outdated, correct. So configuration is one thing that is common, right? It's all about configuration, that's right. Configuration and misconfiguration, that's right. Anything else? Secure coding? You're talking about all security here, but what's can you be specific? Can you be fine tune your thoughts much further? What's common across all of these three? Endpoints were exposed. Information disclosure, that's right. Third-party packages may not be information disclosure, but what's something common here? So we had vulnerable libraries. We had insecure crypto API, which is the SHA-1, and then insecure configuration, right? So all of this is coming with either defaults or specific to certain ways of configuring and developing. But if you ask the questions about why exactly these versions should be used, why this SHA-1 method to be used, why should I choose this configuration, then you may be able to address those vulnerabilities. This covers the WASP A06, the outdated components, and then the cryptography failures and the security misconfigurations. The strategy is wide. So if you ask the questions about why should those be in that way, you can probably find those issues. The why is a very powerful question. Start asking all of your developers, your peer developers, when you're doing a peer review, when you're to your requirements, to your admins, and everybody who is involved in development. Third-party components is a catch-up game. The vulnerability that the version that you use may be saved today, but it may not be saved after few months. So it's a continuous monitoring and maintenance. Get your cryptos right. Whenever you're using crypto, make sure that's the right purpose for the right use. Pseudo numbers, hashing, encryption, those are the things that look for. In case of server and if you are influencing the server administration, focus on your getting a good hardening guide that is applicable to your environment, to your framework and technology. This is the first table that I showed with the vulnerabilities. So if you cover these things and it sums up to the 84% of the vulnerability with these questions. So in short, the three strategies are who, the user, how are you handling your data, and why those specific decisions that you made during your development. So those are the three strategies, the simplest format and the most fundamental and very powerful to avoid the majority of the security issues. Right? So that's all the things I had today. So if you want the slides, you can scan this QR code, or the URL is tinyurl.com/3things2secure, and you will be able to get this slides on Google Drive. All right. So that's all. Thank you for the opportunity, everyone. Thank you very much.